Hey YouTube, happy Lughnasadh or Lughnasadh, or as the church calls it, Lamas or Lamas, I don't know. Happy harvest time. This is my harvest. Nice red tomato. I grew it myself. Don't know why I was so taken by doing tomatoes. When they first started growing, I was like a little kid. I was really pretty excited. I don't know where it came from, but I was just so jazzed about it. Growing my own food. Never done that before. So, happy summertime, basically. That's what Lughnasadh is about. And it's in Wicca, it's attached to the Celtic god Lu, the sun god, summertime, harvest. Get that sunshine in there. Get your ultraviolets. And there's Celtic games of a kind that used to take place in the ancient days, and they're reviving that in Ireland now, in honor of the god's foster mother. Of course, Lu was really an Irish monarch, a powerful Irish monarch. His foster mother was from the conquered of the same blood as the conquered people, and so honoring her upon her death brought the people together. So it was a unity thing, a political move. And it became, deified later on. They became associated with gods that were, believed in long before they came along, which is how it always is. The attributes of these gods take on all these human traits because different leaders become associated with them, and the stories become exaggerated and everything. So the actual god Lu is, it's immaterial. It's harvest time. It's the sun. It's the solar power. It's the Romans associated with the god Apollo, and Caesar seemed to think Lu had a lot in common with god Mercury, Greco-Roman god, Mercury, Hermes, Mercurius. The alchemical Mercurius was very important to me in my own development in my early 20s. I had a spontaneous Jungian type dream vision initiation. It lasted about, for a few weeks in building up, and then it sort of climaxed into a state that hung on for about 3 weeks. And images of Hermes were prominent. Wooden pillars dating back to a time before the Greeks working in marble. So that got me started on a lot of things. It was a very, very pagan initiation. It happened all by itself. And I was pulled in. And the goddess was prominent. And I don't need to get into that right now. But harvest time and the summer. And I wish a happy summer to everybody. I think that's about all I have to say about it. I've been through some changes a little bit. For a very dramatic, dark moment for me, I got in touch with some real fear of a kind that is sort of the base fear of my ego. And I realized how crippling that can be. I will talk about that sometime. But first, I'd like to ward off Gurdjieffians. Most of the Gurdjieffians I've talked to on YouTube are wrong-headed. They're perfectionists. They believe in an objective morality that I questioned as early as my first Beelzebub video. I made fun of Gurdjieffians in my recent Declaration of Independence video. And now I'll talk seriously about them. I have one more humorous video about it, and a Lucifer video even about Gurdjieffians, Lucifer on Gurdjieffians. They deserve their own video. And before too long, Lucifer will have to talk about Wicca itself, and what occult Wicca is about. Because the Lucifer series is about occult Wicca, about the Wicca of the goddess and the serpent. Okay, much older consort for the goddess is the serpent rather than the horned god of the Celts. Okay, I take some satisfaction in honoring Celtic mythology, in my own way because I have Celtic blood, but it's not necessary. Wicca is much or should be much larger than this, much larger than this. It embraces all the mythologies in a modern way, brings it together, you know. So people with African bloodline, people with Indian bloodline, all of this, you know, it all comes together because we're all coming from the same place, okay? All has different flavors, right? So, and the serpent is more universal to all the diversity, okay? So, and the story of the forbidden fruit. And the reason I gathered together all the occult wisdom is, including what Gurdjieff wanted to do with what the Sufis were about in secret, with, you know, Beelzebub, and then there's Crowley's take on some things, and there's Kabbalah, there's Eastern philosophy. All of this knowledge, all of this consciousness, essence, knowledge of being, process, all of it originated with paganism. And then as it was co-opted by the patriarchy, often underground and in secret because of its association with the serpent, because it was so forbidden. It changed, it mutated, it adapted, and now it's time to bring it all home. Okay? Over the generations, bringing occult knowledge to bear on occult studies, on Wiccan studies, will create covens of a kind that haven't been seen for thousands of years. This is far more important to me than dealing with a lot of wooden-headed Gurdjieffians. We don't have the same morality. I don't believe in objective morality. I don't believe anyone has attained to it. I don't believe G ever attained to it. I think it's a pretense. And I think it's something very much a pretension of patriarchal thought, of daddy religion, of daddy knows best. And Gurdjieffians tend to want to play daddy with me. It's very parent-child. It's extremely patronizing. And yet, weirdly, intellectually evasive. You know, none of them want to deal with me at that level. And all of them try to downplay that in order to act, frankly, look down their noses in a benign kind of way. Some of them don't mean anything malicious by it. But it's a very lonely life, you know, to live like that and to think like that. It's not a life of community. It's not a life of being a brother or a sister to anybody at all. It's very parent-child. And it's the way of the daddy god. And so the Lucifer series has to reject it. Modern covens are about everyone being brother and sister to one another, a family. And some brothers and sisters are older than other brothers. Some have strengths others brothers and sisters don't have, that kind of thing. But no, not what I've seen with Gurdjieffians. It's really pretty geeky. And it stems from the fact that someone assumes they're all-knowing or they're much further along the path and they're going to show me something online in a message or something. I don't think so. Okay. I don't mean anything malicious to Gurdjieffians. So many of them are just alone. They're so alone. And these trips build up in their heads and they get into such a weird narcissism about things that I just leave them to their own, you know, dharma. But it can have no part in Wiccan ways. Do as you will, but intentionally harm none. That's the Wiccan way. That's all of morality that we need to deal with. That's all of what this is all about. And the rest is consciousness. Gurdjieff emphasized conscience too much and not consciousness. Okay. And he misused some words because some of, I think, got lost in translation. So, but a lot of the parent-child going on with Gurdjieffians can be laid at the old man's feet. And it has to be rejected. Enough's enough. When you're dealing with a subculture here that's very closeted off and ingrown. And I'm going to read with permission, I hope to be able to read a letter that a friend of mine sent about Gurdjieffian groups and what some of the ego trips are about. And none of this can play any part in coven life and in being a part of a circle or even a part of a Wiccan study group. Personalities like this can never have a place in Wicca. We're just going to shut the door to this. And I've heard enough, and enough is enough. These people live in their heads. They even live in their heads about how nobody should live in their heads. How to get out of the house more often. It's always more important to be real than to be perfect. And to be ultimate real is as close to perfection as you're ever going to get.